So, welcome to Northern Powerhouses, our business success stories series of interviews, where we discuss with local business leaders their backgrounds, their successes, their challenges, and what's really driving them forwards. And this afternoon, I'm delighted to have with us Guy Whapples, who's director at Bistro Guy. So, Guy, firstly, thank you for spending a bit of time with us. And if you'd like to introduce yourself, Bistro Guy, what you do, how you help people, that would be wonderful.
Thanks, Chris. And thank you for inviting me onto the podcast.
Very
My
welcome.
name is Guy Whapples, and as Chris said, I'm director of Bistro Guy Events Catering, based in Strensall, just outside York.
Brilliant. And give us a little bit more about what you do, Guy. All the wonderful things for people that are going to keep an eye out for you.
So now we run a mobile events catering business. So we have a number of trailers, specialising in mainly wood fire pizzas, but we do other types of catering and a few bits of bar work as well.
Brilliant.
We went mobile about 5 years ago in the middle of the pandemic, um, and that's what we do now.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Well, look, Guy, if we kind of to start looking backwards a little bit, tell us a bit more about your background, how you got into business, and why this particular one for you.
Yeah, no problem. So I basically went to catering college and then went and worked in France, and did a in a hotel for 6 months.
Wow.
Then I went traveling and worked in New Zealand for a year, ran a cafe bar over in New Zealand. And
Wonderful.
then I came back and did a little bit of agency work. And I actually got a lot of my experience through catering through the agency work because
Right.
I went from everywhere from fine dining restaurants to working in schools to working at Harrogate Conference Centre and doing large functions. So it was very varied. So that's gave me a really
Yeah.
good background, a good staple for the catering industry. And then from there, I went and managed a farm shop, which was Farmer's Cart, which is now currently Piglets. And we've actually
Right.
currently got a trailer there at the moment for the light trail,
Oh,
Farmer Ed's Atlantic Light Trail. So it's kind of going back in time from being there
yeah.
for 7 years and managing there. So I was a chef manager there. And then from there, I went and opened a little bistro down in York City Centre on Giddy Gate
Yeah.
and ran that for 10 years. And then the pandemic hit, and then we went into mobile catering. That's where we currently are.
Brilliant. Brilliant. What a varied and interesting career. So, I mean, when you were growing up, is this the sort of thing you saw yourself doing, or did you have other things planned at that point?
Well, to be honest with you, I actually was always very keen on joining the police force from a young age.
Right.
Was in the specials in Leeds for 7 years in Chapeltown, so it was quite a challenging area. And I
Yes.
enjoyed that. I did the catering alongside it, and then it's just kind of snowballed that I've stayed in there because I've enjoyed it and one thing or another, and that's where I am now.
Brilliant, brilliant. So looking back over the growth of the business, what would you say some of the biggest challenges you've had to overcome?
Um, well, obviously, the food costs and rising costs and economic climate's been very challenging.
Yes.
Um, it's always been challenging, but I think particularly in the last, well, since we left the EU and the last changes of government, it's really become very challenging with all the increases in national
Yeah.
insurance and then food cost rise, as I mentioned. So it's always kind of keeping us under pressure, and it's trying to keep yourself good value for money, but in profit as well.
Yeah, no, that makes absolute
Mm.
absolute sense. And looking at your business and what are some of the key learnings that you've got from growing a business?
I think just it's challenging. Anybody that does run their own business, whatever it is challenging. You do have a lot of highs and lows. And I think after since doing it for about 15 years, with 10 years of running the bistro and then 5 years currently in the mobile catering, you just have to kind of weather the storm and ride the highs and ride the
Yeah.
lows and just got to keep going. It's challenging, but there's lots of rewards that come with it as well.
I think yeah, no, I completely agree. I think there's two key things there is one is that resilience. A lot of people aim to
Mhm.
talk about resilience, about overcoming the problems and keeping going, because I think the biggest challenge is keeping going, isn't it? Is accepting that there's challenges. And I was told many years ago by the then CEO of my organization, he said, Chris, one of the challenges or key challenge of owning a business is solving problems. That's the key job of a business owner, is to solve problems. And he basically said, if you don't like problems, get out of business, because problems are a function of business. And what I've learned from that guy myself moving forward is, um, if a business is growing, if a business hasn't got problems, it's probably not growing fast enough.
Yeah, well, I think there's always going to be problems. I think definitely you've got to be resilient, and I think
Yep.
you've got to be also flexible and adaptable.
Yes.
I had to adapt. The reason we went mobile is because we hit the pandemic.
Yep.
I was in at the bistro, and obviously we closed. I had a
Yep.
family of three,
Yeah.
and I had to do something about it. Otherwise, I wasn't going to have any income coming in.
Yeah.
I was very lucky that I did have one trailer which we still have, which I had in place anyway because I'd done the beer festival, which they asked me to do about a year before the pandemic, and
Right.
because I run in the bistro and I didn't want to have the hassle of taking everything down in gazebos and whatnot, because I was quite busy with the bistro. I just got a trailer and got it converted so I could just drag it down there and set up straight away. So luckily, when it did come to the point that we weren't able to open the bistro, I just started going out to the villages, in the community and making pizzas in the community, and it worked really well. And that's how we kind of snowballed into going into mobile catering.
Brilliant. Because I mean, obviously, hospitality was probably the hardest hit industry by COVID. It
Yeah,
must.
it was very difficult. But what we did is to utilize our time. I actually realizing how difficult it was for everybody at that time and how hard the hospital was. I made about 400 pizzas and donated to all the staff at the hospital,
Wow.
um, just to all the nurses and the doctors because they were working so hard, which they're incredibly grateful for, as you can imagine.
Yes.
And then also, I also teamed up with the local shop in the village that I live in, the co-op, and they provided me lots of free food and veg. And I started to cook the meals in the community for all the villages around the local
Brilliant.
area. So that
Brilliant.
kind of passed away a bit of time when obviously I had so much time on their hands. And then someone just said, I didn't actually think about it to be honest, because I was doing pizzas from the bistro on a Friday and Saturday night, but only as takeaway because we weren't allowed to obviously open.
Yep.
And then someone just said, why don't you start taking your trailer out? And I thought, well, why not? So I just went outside my house
Yep.
and it was obviously got great response. And then I went, my neighbor said, do you want to go on my drive? And then I went there, and it did really well. And then we just snowballed.
Brilliant. Brilliant. What a great. I mean, talk about resilience. I think what you've just described of is a clear definition of what it feels. Keeping going because it must. What did it feel like? I mean, it must have felt. I remember how it felt for me in my business and not knowing what was going to go on, but knowing that given lockdown for me, I was able to go and work from home and communicate with people in their home. Clearly, from a hospitality point of view, that's and a catering point of view, that's not going to happen.
Well, no, like I said, I think the ones that were prepared to adapt in one way
Yes.
or another, whether it was making a lot of restaurants made meals and sold them, takeaway meals for homes. I did the pizzas going into the trailer. I think if you were prepared to adapt, then you were able to kind of
Yeah.
weather the storm. But if you weren't, it was going to be particularly challenging. Also, at that point of me going into the mobile and trading at that time, we had a colleague who also business really suffered through the pandemic.
Yeah.
And him and his business partner had to get other jobs as well as trying to keep their business going.
Right.
So we were able to employ him. And at the time during the pandemic, so as well as us being able to also go out and make a living, we also were able to help other people out as well. So it was
Brilliant.
a real win-win situation, really.
Wonderful. And I'm a massive believer in what goes around comes around. You must have created a lot of goodwill in your community for what you were doing, and hopefully you're reaping the rewards of that over time.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. We got lots of positive comments, and a lot of people were very grateful. It was challenging. Don't get
Yeah.
me wrong. We the first time I went outside my house with the trailer, someone reported us to the council, so I had to deal with that, and
Great.
then gone
Great.
somewhere else, and but I think the ultimate feedback was everybody was very grateful,
Yeah.
and It helped me out and my family because we were able to trade, but it also helped the community out. People working long hours. I mean, it was the
Yeah,
highlight of most people's week, being able to go out and get a wood fire pizza trailer. Obviously, all
absolutely.
the control measures were in place. There
Of
was not
course.
everyone was gathering. There was everybody was coming up to certain times in times, and so they weren't all gathering. But it was a direction that we never expected to
Yeah,
happen. It has happened, and luckily for me, and it's come out on the right side of it, really.
brilliant. Wonderful. And Guy, I think you're aware we're a business coaching organisation, so I'm keen to know who the best coaches you've worked with, whether that's business, sport, or life in general. Who's had the biggest impact on you?
Well, I've always played a lot of sport especially when I was younger, and I think definitely from a rugby point of view, that they're obviously rugby is very much a team sport,
Yep.
and I think it's very important as well as working in kitchens as well. It's very much a team sport. It's
Yes.
not an individual sport. So I've always been involved in anything that involves team.
Yep.
Into what I do now, I'm running a team of people, and it's kind of keeping it going
Yep.
and managing it. But I think my ultimate inspiration and the person I've looked up to the most is my dad. He's given me a lot of advice over the years. He's run businesses. He's been very successful. He's very driven, very humble, and if anybody I look up to the most, I have to say it has to be my dad.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Love it. And I love to collect quotes and sayings about business or success in general. Have you got any favourites that you catch yourself using on a regular basis?
Um, I don't have any particular one out standout quote, but I think just keep going. Don't give up. You are going to have challenges. You are going to have ups and downs, but you just got to keep driving
Love it.
forwards and, focused.
Brilliant. I love it. I mean, one that came to mind when you were talking slightly earlier about adapting and adopting is there's a great one that we used a lot actually when we were doing we were doing webinars during COVID to help and support people, and
Mm.
it came from Charles Darwin about the from the origin of species, looking at evolution, and he said
Yeah,
something like, I'm paraphrasing, it's not the strongest or the most intelligent of the species that survive, but those that are most adaptable to change.
yeah, yeah,
And I think that was so relevant in COVID, and as you've described, actually changing and adapting and accepting the environment you're in,
mm.
and finding a way to be successful. And obviously, on the back of that, this is where you are now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no about it.
Brilliant. And do you, again, similarly on an education point, do you have any favourite
Mm.
books or podcasts about business or success in general that you can recommend?
Um, I don't. I've read a few different books. I don't know if any of it particularly stands out, and I do generally watch a bit of social media, but and coaches on there. But yeah, I don't know if any particular one that stands out, but just generally, yeah, just.
All good. Some people have two or three that they recommend. Some
Mm.
people don't. It's just we're all different, I think. So it's
I'm too
all
busy
good.
working, Chris. In my
Yeah,
industry, I'm
bang
always
on.
out and about.
I get that one completely. I could completely get that one. I know it's how hard it is for you. I think I mentioned when we were talking a little while ago that I was lucky enough to bump into a couple of your family members running one of the trainers
Yeah,
so close to me.
yeah,
So I
yeah,
totally get it.
yeah.
And just on the learning front a little bit further, what would you say you've learned about yourself throughout your journey so far, Guy?
Um, I think, I mean, I'll go back to it, but I think it's just, you know, just riding the storms and just, you do have to sometimes talk to people and, it's challenging. And I think,
Yeah,
just you learn just that you've just got to stick with it and like the highs and the lows come and it's, yeah, just keep working hard, really, generally.
brilliant, brilliant. And one of the key definitions we have in Action Coach for a true business is a commercial profitable enterprise that works without its owners. I'm keen to know what your thoughts are on that.
Um, without the owners working in it, you mean, sorry.
Yes,
Um, well, I think obviously it can be done because it's done multiple times over, but
yes,
it's systems, isn't it, in place?
yes,
We're very hands-on,
yep,
but you've you've got to get to obviously a certain point where that maybe that comes with evolution of time, but
100%.
it's not going to happen at the beginning, you've got to put the hard yards in and you've got to
Absolutely.
put the graft in, because you've got to drive it forwards. And then I think eventually you've got to get to a point that you get to a stable point where you've got to maybe consider start bringing in managers and different processes, but you have to have a good system in place before you do that, because ultimately a lot of the business is run by the owners from
Yeah.
the start.
It's an interesting one. I often I ask the question because I think the reality that we see often is you know most successful businesses are started by successful owners, and we're in it, and we can get to a certain level of success with a few good people in sheer blood and guts. Typically, the owners working in the business and make it happen. But there does come a point where to go to the next stage, it is important that we're able to step back a bit,
Mm,
work through other people, and become leaders. But it's just because if we don't, then we are the challenges we become limitations to the business because
absolutely.
it's
Yeah,
about our time. But we have to. Almost every business has had to have its owners do the hard yards, as I know you've done, and most of us do. But it's an
absolutely.
interesting thing to keep an eye on for the future. I think is just where it could go if we chose it to be. Um, and
Absolutely.
and speaking of the future, what does the future look like for you guys, and what challenges do you think you might face, if any?
Well, I think, I mean, we keep growing. We try to invest each year in one way or another, whether it's changing the direction of what kind of events we take on or expanding with more trailers. And we want to a third trailer. We've got a third trailer recently.
Brilliant,
So we are expanding. Bear in mind, we started with just one trailer, now up to three, and we've got vehicles in place. And
brilliant.
every year we're growing, and that's important. Um, I think the challenge is it's I think our biggest challenge we've seen over the years, and it is competition. That's
Right?
probably what we've seen the most. There's a lot more people
Yes.
going into what we're doing, as
Yep.
well as pubs and restaurants all having to diversify because they're finding it difficult.
Yep.
So that's challenging, but
Yeah.
that's always going to be the case. You're always going to have competition. Sometimes it makes you stronger
Yep.
because you just means you have to step up your game. So I
Brilliant.
don't think competition is always a bad thing.
No.
But and I think that just the economic climate is also the challenges with that. It's trying to, where we find at the moment, it's trying to keep your quality at a good level at reasonable prices. The general public aren't stupid. You
Yeah.
can't charge a lot of money and not do a good product and a good service.
Yep.
But you've also got to give value for money, but you've also got to keep your costs within line of everything rising. And that is probably the biggest challenge at the moment, is trying to put our costs at the right price and give value, but also keep it in profit and not become too expensive.
Yeah. Brilliant. Brilliant. And I'm keen to know what you say to anyone that was thinking of going to business right now, Guy.
Um, I think if you've got something, an idea or something that you are passionate about and want to, you know, take something on, then I would always say, go and have a go.
Brilliant.
Why not?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Why look back and say, why not? But it won't be easy. It will be challenging. But if you're prepared to put the, hard yards in, prepared to weather the storm, it can be rewarding. And ultimately, it's going to be yours.
Brilliant. Love it. And if you started again your business, is there anything significant you do differently, do you think?
Um, not anything massively significant, but there's plenty of things I would do differently. But not anything that stands out like massively. I think,
Yep.
you will always look back and go, well, I could have maybe tweaked this and could have maybe tweaked that. But then that's also part of the learning, the learning process, isn't it? You're not
Absolutely.
always going to get everything 100% right, but you learn from your
Absolutely.
mistakes and you improve for the future.
And it's that constant improvement, isn't it? It's that constant review and improvement. Absolutely couldn't
Every
agree more.
day's a learning, every day's a learning day, isn't it?
Absolutely, it certainly is, isn't it? It certainly there's been a few over the last few years with many things going on, but I couldn't agree more. And final question: what would be the best advice you could give an 18-year-old you if you could go back in time and do that? Do you think?
Um, Probably listen to advice a little bit more, not be so stubborn because I am quite stubborn, and, so I think maybe just listen to people's advice, take on board a bit more what people have said, but and Yeah, that's probably what I'd say the most important thing I could
It's
probably say.
Yeah, I mean, I think ultimately we're all ploughing our own furrow. We're all going in the direction that we choose. I think it's just good just to take stuff on, process it, listen. Don't have to do it all or use it all, but it's often just good to get a different point of view, and a bit of a challenge. Um,
Absolutely.
Guy, it's been fascinating talking to you, and thank you so much for your time today. And be good to swing by another 6 to 12 months and see how many more trailers and vehicles you've got. But for anyone that's watching, like to get in touch with you or your company, maybe know where they could come and get a great wood fire pizza. What would be the best way of getting in touch with you?
Yeah, well, obviously we've got a website, which is www.bistroguy.co.uk. We're
Yep,
also on all the social media, Facebook and Instagram, Bistro Guy York.
yep,
We do regular locations through the week. We have 20 different locations between York and Harrogate, which you can pre-order online and then come and collect.
brilliant.
So we do that Monday to Friday, and
Yep,
then we also do corporate events all over Yorkshire. We do lots of weddings, again, all over Yorkshire.
brilliant.
And we do all sorts from wood fire pizzas to slow smoked brisket rolls to bratwurst sausages and also a little bit of bar work. So we're more of an overall events catering business, but we
Yep,
do these wood fire pizzas during the week. So if you ever fancy a nice quality wood fire pizza or want some quality catering, then please look no
brilliant.
further and get in touch.
Brilliant. I'll be there. I'll go online. I know I've been on your, as you say, on your website, and you can actually see where you're going to be. And as you said, pre-order, which is a great opportunity.
Absolutely.
So I'd urge
Yeah.
anyone to do that. But Guy, it's been really delightful talking to you today. Thank you so much for your time. And as I say, it'd be great to catch up again in the future.
No problem, Chris. And thank you for having me on the podcast.
Thank you.